Hi everyone, welcome to Beatles on Uke with me, Matt Stead. In today's lesson we're going to tackle the beautiful Here Comes the Sun, written by George Harrison in 1969. To put this into context, the Beatles have gone through the not very successful Get Back sessions and were preparing to record their final album. The story has it that George Harrison was so sick of the tension and all these meetings that he skived off to go to Eric Clapton's house, where he sat in the garden and wrote this song. And I think that temporary sense of relief and optimism really comes along in this song, particularly with the advent of spring coming in the garden too. The song itself is bright and cheery with the melody in a major key. What's interesting about it is it does have some really varying rhythms with triplets and changes in time signature. This was something that George really enjoyed. In fact, on the song We Can Work It Out, it was George who suggested that they go into waltz time at certain parts in the song. So let's have a listen to my arrangement and then I'll teach it to you step by step and we'll learn all about it. Just briefly so you know, all of these arrangements in my Beatles course can be played both low G and high G. The notation will look different, but the tab remains exactly the same. So wherever you see that open G string, whether you're low or high, just hit that string nearest your nose and it will sound great. So let's dig in and really see what's going on here. I've changed this song from the original key into the key of G, which makes this fall really beautifully on the ukulele. In fact, much of the work on this song is done around a G chord and just moving fingers here and there. The song largely consists of the 1, 4 and 5 chords in the key of G. So in the key of G, that's G, G, A, B, C and D. So G, C and D, the 1, 4 and 5 chords. So if I was just to play through as if I was singing this, you'll notice that those chords just come up in various forms again and again. Notice the chords as I sing along, just G, C and D with a little A7 that appears briefly in the chorus. Little darling, it's been a long, long, lonely winter. Little darling, it feels like years since it's been here. Here comes the sun, diddle-diddle. Here comes the sun, and I say it's alright. Da-da-da-da-da-da, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da. That end bit, you notice, is where things start to get a little bit weird and we switch to waltz time, but we'll cover that in just a moment. As I mentioned with the history of the song, I think George was probably just noodling around with a particular chord and adding fingers on and off. He would have been playing what we would call a D chord on the guitar. Now we can emulate that by playing a G chord on the ukulele, exactly the same shape. And you notice that the melody comes from the chord just by lifting up and replacing fingers. So the first two measures, the melody that comes out, notice it's almost entirely contained within that G chord. So this is a real fingerstyle piece. In order to pick out those notes quickly, we're not going to be able to use just our thumb as we often do in chord melody pieces. Instead, I'd like you to assign the thumb to the G string, your index finger to the C string, your middle finger to the E string and your ring to the A string. If you find it useful, you can anchor your little finger on the soundboard or you can have it floating. A couple of things that will help you when you're doing fingerstyle this way. First of all, notice that my arm forms almost like an arch over the top of the ukulele. This stops me muffling the strings with the palm of my hand here, and it allows the soundboard to vibrate really nicely. You don't need to be uncomfortably high like this, but just a bit of an angle so that your fingers are falling down onto the strings. Also notice that my fingers are at roughly a 45-degree angle to the strings, so they're not like this, and they're not like this. They're somewhere in the middle, roughly 45 degrees. And I tend to bring my hand back when I'm fingerpicking so that I avoid hitting the fingerboard. This means that as my thumb and fingers pass over the strings roll nicely off my nails or the pads of your fingers if you don't have nails for a lovely warm sound, and it keeps things really comfortable. So basically when you're reading the tab, whichever string the note falls upon, use the corresponding thumb or finger to pick that note. It makes things really, really simple. And if you have a look at the first measure, you'll notice apart from one note, which is the open A, all of the rest of the notes are contained within your G major chord. So the key really is to hold down the relevant chords as we play through each measure. It makes everything a lot easier. For instance, if I took the tab too literally and I just followed the numbers, I might end up playing something like this, which is kind of tricky with my fingers, but notice if I keep my fingers on a G chord, easy peasy lemon squeezy. So let's look at that opening measure. What we're going to do is hold down that G chord, just pick the G string, C string, A string, and back to the E string. All of those notes are quavers, the same length, so 1 and 2 and. Now the next note is an open A. What we don't want to do is take all the fingers off the chord, because otherwise we kind of have to put them all back down again. So all we do is we just lift off the second finger off the A string for that A note, and then we put it back down again for the B note that follows. Off, on, like that. Let's try that. 2, 3, 4. Yeah, one more time. 2, 3, 4. Fantastic. So that's the first measure mostly done. Notice that most of the notes here are quavers or eighth notes. You can count them as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and, or you can kind of sing the melody in the head, or you can think of them as quick notes and longer notes. So for instance, in that opening phrase, I could think of it like this. Quick, 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 long, long, quick, quick, long, long. Okay? Notice that the final note of that first measure is tied. That means it lasts for a beat. It's going into the next measure. That's a G note here. So we have our opening phrase. Off on. We hit this G, part of the chord, isn't it? Keep the chord down for the next two notes, this 2 and 2, that's a D and B. Lift off briefly for the A, and then your fingers in the right place for the G note that follows, okay? So nearly the whole of that first measure is just holding this G shape down and occasionally lifting off this finger for an A. It will look and sound like this. Okay, let's slow that right down. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and off on. Hold it, off, okay, nice. The next phrase is nice and simple, just watch the timing on this one. It's based on a C6 chord. The reason we call it a C6 chord is that it features this A note, which is the 6th note in the key of C, C, D, E, F, G, A. So instead of calling the chord it's based on a C major, we call it a C6. Don't sweat the theory too much. This bit's relatively simple. We start with that G. This is the second to last note in the second measure. We take it away for the open E. Then we hit the low C below it. Put it back on for the G. Hit the open A. And then we just hit that G one more time, the 3rd fret of this E string. And off. Okay, it will sound like this. I'll do that one more time. Okay. Again, think about those notes as quick and long. It's the easiest way to do it. Notice that we have a long note, a crotchet without a flag at the start, then 2 quick ones because they have the flag, and then the rest are long. And then a quick one at the end going to the next phrase. So you can think of it as this. Long, quick, quick, long, long, long. Okay, not too bad, right? I'll do that again. Long, quick, quick, long, long, long. Okay, so let's put that together with the opening phrase. I'll play it once through and then we'll play it together. That last note is leading to the D chord, so don't worry too much about that. Let's try that nice and slow after 3 and 4 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, one more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Fantastic. It's quite tricky that, isn't it? Because you're having to think about which finger to use on each string, and you're also having to lift fingers on and off and think about rhythms. So there's a lot going on there. So be kind to yourself. If you're struggling with that, rather than battling on to the next bit, I would pause the video, take your time, go as slow as you like, get that phrase under your fingers and then come back. Most of the song features a lot of repetition, so even if it feels like you haven't done too much, actually that's a decent chunk of the song. For the D chord that follows, I like to be a little bit fancy-pantsier. Rather than just pinching the middle 2 strings like this, as you would expect, or this. What I like to do is a slight roll. That just means I hit this C string ever so slightly before I hit the E string. You don't have to do any kind of fancy technique here. It's literally just one note after the other like this. It really is that simple. People overthink rolls. So rather than, we're going to play just like that. And we get this lovely. Notice that I can do most of that with my left hand, just using these two fingers here. Lift off for the E, back on for the F sharp, the 2, up to the G here with this finger, and then the open A I can just hit with my ring finger down here. So that gives us, fantastic. Let's try the whole of that first line then. If you're not ready, just watch it so you can hear how it sounds. 3 and 4 and... Okay, slow down. 3 and 4 and... Fantastic. Now here's where that repetition comes in that I promised you. Measures 5 and 6 are exactly identical to measures 1 and 2. So just like before, keep that G shape down, off on. Now here's where it changes going into measure 7. We have a C major 7 rather than a C6. So that just means it features this B note. B is the 7th note in the key of C, hence the name C major 7. So rather than having our fingers off or up here on this G note, we're going to place a finger down here on this B note, 2nd fret of the A string, and we're just going to pick the C string open, and then we pinch the bottom 2 strings. You don't need to roll that one, it sounds nice with just pinching with 2 fingers. So we've got this, and then an open A to follow it. We hit this G note here, 3rd fret of the E string, and then we resolve that note to an F sharp note. So this G goes into this F sharp, and we get this lovely D7 chord, which kind of asks a question. It makes you want to go round and do another phrase, basically. That's the 5 chord in the key of G. So that measure will sound like this. I put a little roll on that D7. Like so, just practice it and speed it up, or you could just pinch that, will be absolutely fine as well. So let's put together measures 5 to 8. Notice that measure 8, we just keep our fingers on the D7 chord. You don't need to do anything more than that. Okay, so come in after 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and... Let's try that one more time. 3 and 4 and... Fantastic. Now that introduction is almost, but not quite, note for note the same as the verse. So you've got a large chunk of the song there under your fingers. At this point, after that introduction, which is almost like an instrumental verse, we have George coming in with his lyrics. Here comes the sun, do-do-do-do. Here comes the sun, and I say it's all right. So let's have a look at that part. So let's have a look at measure 9. That's the last measure of the second line. Notice that we're still based on this G chord, so I'm going to hold down the full G chord for the next 2 measures until we get to that C major 7. Now here, it sometimes helps to sing the melody in your head as you play it. Here comes the sun, do It just helps with the timing. Notice the first two notes are just lead-in notes. They're not the melody notes. And then, here comes the sun. Do, 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 do. Okay. So what we're doing is we're holding down that G chord. We're hitting the G and then the C string. We're pinching the bottom two strings together with two fingers. Again, you don't need to roll this. And then we're going to lift off for that A note. Okay, so. Okay. We put the finger on that A string back down for the B note that follows. And the G note that follows is already down as well. Okay. Here comes the sun. So for measure 10, that's our do, 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 do. We keep the G chord down and we just pick the C string, A string, E string. Then just like before, we lift off the A string and back on. Okay, and you can sing in your head if it helps. Do, 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 do. If I put that together with measure 9. Here comes the sun. Do, 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 do. Okay. You don't need to sing, but it just helps with the timing. Okay, again, measure 9, 2 and 3 and 4 and. Not too bad, is it? It's just lifting your fingers off at the right time and picking the right string. Then we go to another one of those C major chords. This time we hold it here and we pick the C and E strings open. We hit that second fret of the A string and take it away. So nice, easy. Okay, so. Then notice we put it back down before the next chord. Then we have this A7 chord. We're only playing two notes from it, a C sharp note here and this G sharp note here, but it's an implied A7. Okay, think of an A7 chord like this, and this note here, this melody note here, is just the same as this one from the A7. Okay, so you're going to hold down this shape, and if you like, again, just like on that D chord, you can roll these one after the other like so. Remember, don't do anything fancy peeling off, just think note, 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 quick. Okay, so if I do the whole of measure 11, it'll sound like this. Okay, let's try that. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Yeah, one more time. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Fantastic. Notice on measure 12 I've added a grace note slide. This is a really pretty way of getting a little bit of legato style playing into your playing, and it sounds really sweet. Notice on the tablature we've got a little 0, a slash and then a big 2, or if you look at the notation we've got a little tiny note followed by a bigger note, and that's the indication that we're doing a grace slide. It literally just means that we slide into a note, and often it doesn't even recommend where we slide from. We're just sliding into that second fret. Sometimes if it was, say, up here on the 7th fret, you might do a big slide from right down here, like that. But because we're only going from an open string to the 2nd fret, you haven't really got much option here. So what we're going to do is we're just literally going to slide from the 1st fret quickly into the 2nd fret, like that. I'm using my 1st finger. Okay. So as opposed to a kind of slide like that, it's a very quick, just subtle slide. We pick the A string once and then immediately move that finger up. It wants to be super quick like that. Okay. And then almost immediately we play an open A and then a G. So if you put that together, we get as. Isn't that lovely? Okay. And I say. Let's move on to the next measure because it's nice and simple, this next measure. And I really hope you're getting the importance of staying within these chord shapes. Whenever you're doing this fingerstyle chord melody, it's really, really key. So don't think of it as 2 there, 3 and 2 here, off, 3 like that, which would be way too complex. Just think we're playing that G chord or holding it down. We're picking the C string, the bottom 2 strings physically together, off the open A, and then the G is your fingers already in the right place. So, and that's the all right bit. It's all right. 3, 4. It's all right. Okay. If I put that together with the measure before, that would sound like this. You can imagine George singing, and I say, it's all right. This next bit is actually one of my favourite parts of the whole song, and it sounds really effective on ukulele. What I love about it is it's actually relatively simple to do, even though what's happening musically is quite complex, and it sounds really, really nice. It will sound like this. And what we're doing is we're replicating exactly what George does on guitar. I love this slide he does. It's a D to an E note. So for us, that's 2 to 4 on the C string. So you pick this 2 here, the 2nd fret of the C string, and move it up, slide up to the 4th fret. The key for slides is to have the courage of your conviction. Don't take the tension away, otherwise it'll go dead. And then slide up, keep your finger on the string as you slide up. Practice it a few times, really aiming towards the right hand side of the metal fret, like so. And when we get up to that 4th fret, we don't pick again, we immediately go to the next note, which is this G note here. Notice I'm using my ring finger and my 2nd finger, that's really key, like that. So we slide up, this finger comes down for the G note, and this one, well, it does nothing. We have this open A note afterwards here. So that gives us a slide, 3 off, or you could think of it as a slide D to E, G, A. Okay. Now here's where the clever bit comes in. For the G sus2, a G sus2 is just a G chord with an open A note. Okay. And all you do is you put your 1st finger down here and then just hit the bottom 3 strings, C string, E string and A string in order. Easy peasy lemon squeezy, right? Measure 16, the C6, we just take our finger off for 0, 3, 0. We put it back down for measure 17. If I put that all together, you'll notice that if I use the right fingers, it's not as complex or as difficult as it looks. Okay, join in with me after 3. 1, 2, 3. That's brilliant. So the next bit, we have a pull off 3 to 2 on the E string. Have both fingers down at the same time. That's crucial for a nice pull off. And then we're going to pick that E string and lift up. Now, when you do a pull off, you can ping the string with this finger to get the note to ring out even more. But here we want a really subtle pull off. So you're just literally going to pick the string and lift up. And then we just play the E string open and a D note. So we've got... Okay, let me put that whole section together then from the slide so you can hear it first. Let's try it together. Come in with me after 3. 1, 2, 3. As I think I mentioned in the introduction, this song has some crazy time signature changes in it. George was really keen on taking songs based on beats of 4, like common time 4/4, and then adding 6/8, 12/8, 3/4, kind of some unusual time signatures. In fact, it was George who suggested in the song We Can Work It Out to go from the common time of the chorus into the 3/4 of the section that follows. Have a listen to the song and see if you can spot the waltz part. It's really, really sweet. Basically, you can think of time signatures 2 ways. You can think of them as telling you the rhythm or the beats in a song, but sometimes they're there just to clean everything up and make it easier to sight read, because we could stay in common time here and have these notes one after another as kind of triplets, but it looks really messy on the page and it's really hard to follow. But notice by turning it into 3/8, that just means we have 3 beats, and you can see we've got notes each on a beat here, 3 notes. And they're 1/8 notes, that just means they're quavers, and then they're neatly subdivided. You can see from measure 14, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then we briefly go into 2/4 time, just so that we can clearly add that 3/2 off 2. That's G, F sharp, E, D. Da, da, da. That's 1 and 2 and. So if you were counting, this section would sound like this. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1 and 2 and. The change in time signature is a really common thing to happen in later Beatles tunes. You'll hear it Strawberry Fields Forever, also lots of different songs off Sgt. Pepper, the White Album, and here we have it on Abbey Road. The good news here is when we come to these verses that happen next, you've basically already played them. Now, the only thing to notice is because we have the lyrics coming in here and the lyrics vary per verse, we have a few parts where there are less or more notes as compared to the introduction, so just be aware of that. But otherwise, it's pretty much what you've already played so far. If you look at measure 19 where it says verse, I've purposefully placed verses and chorus indicators here just to make it clearer where we are. So measure 19 where we've got verse. We're going to play exactly the same as we did in the intro for this first measure, based on that G chord. The next measure is exactly the same as what we did in the intro, apart from on the last note we hit 2 strings rather than just the 1. Like that, just 2 strings. So from measure 19. The next measure is slightly sparser than the introduction, and that's just because it matches the lyric. So we have this G note here, open A, and back to it. So, okay, so 3 long notes here. So if we put that together from measure 19. And then we have what happens in the vocals here. We have this nice F sharp note here, but then we have this little flourish after the 2-finger D chord, just like we did in the introduction. Then measure 23, again just like you've already done. And the next measure, slightly different here, again slightly sparser than the introduction. And on the next measure, 26, we're just going to rest on the D chord. The 2 and the 3 at the end of measure 26, the D and the G, they belong to the next phrase. So let's just leave those off just for a minute and let's give it a try from measure 19. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Back to that G shape. D chord. Really nice. And now the next bit, guess what? You've already played it. It's the same as what we did in the introduction. Here comes the sun. Do, 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 do. Here comes the sun. And I say, it's alright. And even this bit. As before. Just don't forget that we're going to play that D and G note 2 and 3 at the end of measure 26. That means at the end of that measure we're going to get a G chord down ready. We're going to pinch them and that just sets up the chorus. Here comes the sun. So if I put that together with the Here Comes the Sun, it will sound like this. Measures 37 and 38 we play the first time round. Notice that one mark over the top. What we do is we hold our G chord down. And then the D chord provides this little turnaround, a bit like measure 22. Which takes us back to the start of the verse. So 37 and 38 will sound like this. Our turnaround. At the end of measure 38, notice we have that repeat marker, the thin line, the thick line and the 2 dots. That means we go back to wherever there's one of those markers pointing in the other direction. And if you check your sheets, you'll notice that's measure 19. So in effect, when you do that turnaround, measures 37 and 38, we jump right back to measure 19. It's just a way of doing yet another verse and another chorus. Let me do that for you then. I'll play measures 37 and 38 going back to 19. Notice there's that nice A note that you can let ring out at the end of measure 38, and that gives you time to then get back into your G chord position for measure 19, which starts with this open G. So it will look and sound something like this. Measure 38. Now measure 19. And I keep going from there. Measure 22. Measure 26. Remember these 2 notes at the end here. Chorus. Measure 30. That nice 3/8 section. Now, because I'm playing it the second time through here, I don't play 37 and 38. I drop right down to 39, just before the bit where it says bridge, where we've got the number 2. And then I start the bridge. And I'll talk you through that in just a second. You'll see it's a long song with a lot of repetition here, and that's why we've got those repeat markers taking us back. If I didn't do that, the arrangement would be over 5, 6 or maybe even 7 pages, so it's just a way of compressing it down. The nice reassuring thing is you see how much repetition there is, so once you start to build up your muscle memory on this song and start to get little sections coming together, you'll find that it will piece together really, really nicely. Now, because of that repetition, I've only got a couple more things to teach you. The first being this bridge. Now, for some reason, a lot of ukulele arrangements on the internet that I've seen of this song seem to leave the bridge out, and it's such a shame because it's such a beautiful and integral part of the song. This is the bit where the Beatles sing, "Sun, sun, sun, here it comes." And they actually repeat that 5 times. We do it once instrumentally and then 5 times with vocals, so 6 altogether. Sun, 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 here it comes. I'll show you how I've arranged it. So from measure 40 where it says bridge, I'll just play it for you. It'll sound like this. We just go round and round 6 times. It's really sweet sounding. Now this bit took me ages to work out. Perhaps it's why a lot of people leave it out, but it's so cool. What's happening here is George is messing about with the time signature. So the first measure of the bridge, which is based on a D chord, is in common time. 1, 2, 3, 4. And then we go to 3/8 again, like we did earlier. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And then measure 43 is really wild because we have 5/8. That means we have 5 beats, 5 notes in this case, and they're all 8th notes. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then we're back to common time again. It's a little bit crazy, right? I very much doubt George was thinking about specific time signatures here. I think he just played what sounded right in his head, and it does sound great. So let's work this out. It's not as bad as it seems once you get used to it. So we start with this D chord, and what we're going to do is we're going to pinch the top 2 strings physically, G and C string, like this. Now notice the first one. If you look really, really carefully, you might need to expand it. You'll see a little tiny dot above the 2 notes below where it says bridge and D. That's telling us to play this note staccato. And staccato just means we play it short and sharp. So as soon as we've pinched these 2 strings, all you need to do is touch them again. Nothing more complicated than that. Just touch them again like this. So instead of this, we have this. That's a long note, staccato, like that. And then we pinch it again, but this time we let it ring out. So it gives us a clipped one and then a long one like this. It's almost like a little trampoline into the bridge. Gives us a little bounce, which is really nice. Then we play the bottom 3 strings in order, the C, E and A strings. Now the next 2 measures aren't too bad. It's just about keeping the right shape down and playing those bottom 3 strings one at a time. First of all, we have this shape, which looks a bit like a G minor 7, but it's actually based on a B flat chord. In this context, because G major has sharps, we actually call it an A sharp rather than a B flat. It's just a pedantic thing, don't worry. So we have this shape down, 2nd finger on the 2nd fret of the C string, and then this one covers the bottom 2 strings of the 1st fret. And we literally just play those bottom 3 strings in order like this. Just like that. Then we go to an F chord, but because we're only playing the bottom 3 strings, you don't need to put this finger up here. So we just have this. Then we go to the funny 5/8 time measure. It starts the same as the last 2 measures with 3 notes in a row like this, based on a C chord. And then what we do is we hammer on E to G, like this, on the E string. Okay, so that gives us 5 beats, look. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, all the same length. Okay. So if I put it together from the start of the bridge so far, it'll sound like this. Then we go back to common time for this G chord. You can pinch it, you could even strum it if you want. And then we fill up the rest of the measure just coming backwards on that chord as an arpeggio twice. Okay, you can count it as 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, let me put that whole bridge together so you can see it and hear it, and then we'll have a go together. We just keep that going round. Look, it's all about the shapes. And you just have to really think about the timing there. Let's try that really slowly. Come in after 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Okay, I do it nice and slow. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. Go back, pinch, pinch, roll, 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 hammer, Fantastic. Now, of course, it's entirely up to you how many times you want to play that bridge. I'm pedantic, so I'm going to play it exactly 6 times, the same amount of time the Beatles play it. But because we don't have the words over the top, this is a solo arrangement for ukulele. You don't have to repeat it 6 times if you don't want to. If you get bored after 2 or 3, absolutely fine. Move on when you feel ready. Then we have this lovely interlude coming out of the bridge, where things really build. Really sweet, isn't it? It's mostly based on this D7 chord with varying melody notes around it. And what we're going to do is almost like that pinch bounce that we played earlier. We're going to pinch this first one and then allow the next one to ring out. Then we're going to pinch it one more time, take our finger off this string, the E string, and add it back down. Okay, so we get this. Do that a few times. And again. One more time. Then the next phrase really starts at the end of that measure with this 2-0-3. It's based on this D7 chord still, the Hawaiian D7. What you do is keep that finger down and then add your ring finger next to it on the 3rd fret. And it's the same process basically. Only this time we're going to do 2 and 3 when we take it off like this. Okay, I'll do that again. So from the start of the bridge, then this bit. And then we do the same for the next one. We keep building. This time we're pinching all 4 strings. We have this A note coming out. Finish with that open A. So, okay, I'll do all that together from the start of the interlude. Then we go to a D7 chord like this with a bar, and you pinch all 4 strings, and then you play a backwards arpeggio like we did in the bridge. Little finger comes down, you can keep that one there if you like, and we're going to do again that kind of bouncy sound to finish. I put the whole of that together. You can join me if you like. 2, 3, 4. Again, a lot of tricky stuff on here. So what I would do is I'd actually practice the bridge section on its own. Then I'd practice it with the interlude, then put the 2 together and then drop it into the song. A lot of these sections are really fiddly and tricky, so do be slow, take your time. This might take even a couple of months or longer to learn, but it's well worth it when you do because it's such a fun song to play. Now you're basically on the home straight now because we have some more verses and choruses and an outro which is based on something that you've already done. But first of all, we just need to navigate a little bit here just to make sure we're doing the right sections in the right order. So we've just completed the bridge and the interlude and finished on that D chord with the high D note. Notice there it says DS al coda. That stands for Da Senya al coda, which means we go back to the Senya mark. That's the one that looks a little bit like a funny percentage sign with an S through it. And then when we get to the bit that says 2 coda, we drop down to the coda mark, which is actually where we are at the moment, and we play until the rest of the song. So long story short, after you play measure 48, that's the one that we were literally just playing, you go all the way back to the first page to measure 19. It's where we repeated back to before when we were doing it before. Then you play measure 19 right through until you get to the end of measure 36. That's the 3rd line down on the 2nd page. And can you see there it says 2 coda? So at that point, then you drop down to the final page and you're going to play from measure 49, okay, where we have that G chord and the chorus. I'll show you that one more time with my iPad. So when we get to this measure that says DSL coda, what we do then is we go right back to measure 19, where we have the senior mark there, and we play through that verse onto the next page. We keep going, and then when we get to the end of the third line here where it says 2 coda, that's where we drop down to the final page and we start playing from here, the coda mark. It takes a bit of getting used to all these musical directions, but the more you use them, the more you'll get used to them and you'll be able to do it fine. So when you see that DSL coda, just look in your sheets, wherever it is, for that senior marks on the first page down the bottom, isn't it? And then when you get to coda, you look for the one that looks like a bullseye. That's your coda mark, and just carry on from there. So let's presume that we've done all that repetition and we've got to the coda where it says chorus and we've got the bullseye mark. So we have another chorus. We've played these through lots of times now. Then down to measure 51. The funny A7. Now this time we just keep that held down for another measure, but I pick it one more time. So from measure 51. Back to your G chord, and then we've got that lovely 3/8 time bit with a slide, and then we repeat that. And then the outro, this is just like the bit you did in the interlude. We've got 2 3/8 measures, okay, so just this shape based on the B flat A sharp, F shape, C shape, hammer on, and a G chord to finish, which you can strum or either let just ring out. So let me play that final page for you in its entirety so you can hear it and play along if you want to. Notice that when we get to the final few measures, we've got a decrescendo. That means we don't slow down, but we get quieter as we hit those chords, progressively quieter. And then on the very final chord, we've got what looks like a kind of bird's eye or like a dot with a rainbow over it. That's a fermata. It just means when we hit that final chord, whether you pinch it or strum it, we don't interrupt the flow of that chord, we just allow it to sustain until our ukulele stops playing, basically. So we allow our ukulele to tell us when to finish playing. Just let it ring out until it decays away. Okay, so I'm going to do the whole of that last section starting from the coda. So that's measure 49, okay? I'll go nice and slow. You can either join in or just listen for now. 1, 2, 3, 4. Measure 51, 2 of these A7s, back to a G, slide, slide, pull off, outro, done. Fantastic. So well done. That's everything you need to play this song now. Now, yes, that's probably one of the hardest songs that we've done in the course so far, particularly because of the timing. But it's also one of the ones that I find that my muscle memory builds up really quickly on because there's so much repetition. So don't be discouraged if you find this really tricky at first. If you stay with it, it's really, really nice when that muscle memory kicks in. And of course there's no playing up the fretboard on this one. It's really nice to play on all sizes of ukulele, right down from soprano through to tenor. I hope you enjoyed that. I've been really excited about doing this one. I've wanted to teach this song for ages and ages, so I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Take your time, enjoy it, have fun and stay fab, and I will of course see you in the next lesson very soon. Take care everyone! Hi there, hope you really enjoyed your Fab 4 free Beatles on Uke lesson. I've got a whole course of these if you're interested, featuring song history, song analysis, and going into a lot of detail. I explain how to play the songs, and sometimes we'll even do some really detailed and beautiful chord, melody and fingerstyle arrangements. There are songs spanning their whole career, from that early brilliant R&B music to their later experiment things, right through Sgt. Pepper, White Album and To Let It Be. And every lesson comes with free worksheets, often featuring full tab and sheet music, so you can really get stuck into those wonderful Fab 4 arrangements. You can join up for £10 a month for Silver membership, which covers the three main courses: beginners, intermediates and next steps. Or you could sign up for a Gold membership where you get all 10 courses, including such things as Beatles, ukulele, jazz and blues, uke theory and much, much more. And on top of that, you get my priority email address, so you can email me with any questions. You can even send me video submissions so I can comment on how you're doing and give some suggestions. We have fortnightly live lessons every Wednesday at 3:30, and these are available for a replay if you can't make it at that time. And every Monday evening we have either a Canacapella live jam or our Melodic Mondays, where I teach you how to play melody style. You'll also get access to a special members ukulele forum and instant access to over 150 ukulele arrangements, many tabbed out in a lot of detail for you. And of course, you get to be part of our amazing, warm and welcoming ukulele community. And of course, there's no pressure selling, none of that rubbish, I hate all that, that you get sometimes on other courses. If you want to cancel any time, just ping me an email, or you can do it with a click of the button via the website. I hope you get much use and lots of enjoyment from my content. See you soon, take care, and uke on.